doing the push-ups today.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
He asked me to, should we do it?
Yeah,
So
that's
if you
how
want
it
to come
comes.
up, I said I would advise against it.
Yeah, I mean, that's
No.
how it comes from the elections office. Is Is this how many do we have registered in Willow Park then? These 14 This is how many in Willow Park are registered?
I'm 405, and I'm not on here. See? It should be me. No. Oh, no. I'm on this side of Micah's. No.
Don't do this to me today.
No.
today.
No, I'm right here. No. I'm on this side.
Relax.
You can't be from me.
No. I'm here. I'm here.
We're live.
No, I'm 14.
Alicia, we're live. It's no longer Memorex. Eric's too young to know that commercial
Trying to
means.
scare me.
All right, everyone, it's 7 p.m. Our meeting will begin. We'll call to order, and at this time, we're going to ask Mr. Bernie Parker to come forward. Will you all stand? He's going to do the invocation, and he will lead us in the pledge. Thank you, Bernie.
Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for these men and these gentlemen that serve on behalf of the citizens of Willow Park. We thank you for our administrative, our staff here at the city, and also our citizens. We ask that you give us guidance, that you give us wisdom as we move forward deliberating on these issues. In this name, in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we have a couple of proclamations I'd like to read. I'll read them up here, and then the last one will come down. Whereas Gerald Liepert was honored by friends and relatives on the occasion of his 90th birthday on May 8th, 2019, as a citizen in Willow Park. Whereas Gerald and his wife Judith, who will celebrate 60 years of marriage in August, were blessed with 2 daughters, Jamie and Jody, and 3 grandchildren, Jordan, Christopher, and John. And whereas Gerald served his country honorably over many years in the Army National Guard and retired in 1984 as a full colonel and spent many years teaching and sharing his love for the German language with children in Wisconsin and Texas. Whereas Gerald has lived in the city of Willow Park since 1985 and served on the Willow Park City Council from 1998 until 2002. Whereas Gerald Liepert has lived during the most eventful century of this nation's history and has been a model and inspiration to his family and to those who have known him. Now therefore, I, Doyle Moss, Mayor of the City of Willow Park, do hereby proclaim May 14th, 2019 as Gerald Liepert Day in the City of Willow Park, and urge all citizens to join me in congratulating Gerald Liepert and wish him many more happy days in the future to share with family and friends. I hereby set by my hand the seal of the City of Willow Park this 14th day of May 2019. Could we all give a round of applause? We all wish to be 90, and I'm closer than most of you. Our second proclamation is for Peace Officers Memorial Day. Whereas in every American community, law enforcement officers are committed to the preservation of life and property, risking their lives to protect us from all who would mock the law, providing protection, law and order, and serving the cause of justice. And whereas law enforcement officers, including members of the Willow Park Police Department, accept a profound responsibility and work to uphold our laws, safeguard our rights and freedoms, and serve on the front lines in the fight against crime and terrorism. And whereas we honor the heroism of all our law enforcement officers, especially those who have given their lives so that others might live, asking God's blessing for the families and friends they left behind. And whereas by joint resolution approved October the 1st, 1962 as amended, Congress authorized and President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th of each year Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of the federal, state, and municipal officers who have been killed or disabled in the line of duty, further designating the calendar week in which May 15th falls Police Week, and is directed that flags be flown at the half-staff on Peace Officers Memorial Day under Public Law 103-322 as amended. And whereas across the nation, Police Week is observed with ceremonies including the hanging of a blue bow or ribbon to honor law enforcement officers who have sacrificed their lives in the line of duty and to honor those who still strive to keep us safe. Now therefore, I, Doyle Moss, Mayor of the City of Willow Park, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, May 15th, 2019 as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and May 12th through 18th, 2019 as Willow Park Police Week, and ask the citizens of Willow Park and those with us today to join us as we honor the standing and the fallen. Could we have a round of applause? And next one, I'll ask the gentleman to come forward. Give us about 2 or 3 minute idea of what you do.
Okay, yeah. So 22 kills, 22 veterans today commit suicide every day in the United States. We lose a first responder 1 every 8 hours. That's unacceptable. These are the leaders. These are the people that keep us safe, our veterans and our first responders. And what we do is we provide mental health wellness vests, traditional, non-traditional therapies to reduce PTSD, TBI, basically to reduce suicide. So a special guest in the back, Sarah, her husband, Maureen Beck, she ended up losing him from the pressures of depression and TBI of everything these first responders see. So just remember, during this police week, also you have your fire chief back there. There's 1% of people who serve in the military, and the percentages are dropping down right now for LEO and fire community because the stress that it puts on. So always appreciate them, realize there's a lot of trials and tribulations they go through, but if you see 22 kills named, our goal is to help empower veterans and first responders to use the system. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Whereas in 2012, the Veterans Administration released a suicide data report that found an average of 22 veterans die by suicide every day. Whereas the 22 Kill Initiative started in 2013 as a social media movement to raise awareness and later became an official 501c3 nonprofit organization on April 4, 2014. Whereas 22 Kill is committed to researching and understanding the common issues connected with suicide, including post-traumatic stress and depression, the various circumstances that they stem from, their effects on the individual, and the impact that suicide has on families, friends, and the community as a whole. Whereas 22 Kill's purpose is to restore the value of life by empowering veterans, first responders, and their families, educate the general public by opening up conversations, and empowering veterans and first responders by building a vast network of organizations and resources across the country. Whereas the 22 Kills Tribe allows service members to connect like-minded individuals and gives them the opportunity to get involved with community events and projects and be part of something great. Now, therefore, I, Doyle Moss, Mayor of the City of Willow Park, call on all citizens of Willow Park and on all civic and educational organizations to observe May 14, 2019, 22 Kill Day. Thank you.
Pictures. It's all weird that I'm halfway in the back.
This one?
Are you giving an eye exam?
Thanks for coming, sir.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to have the swearing in.
Or did you want to do comments or swearing in?
We're going to do the swearing in first.
Okay.
And first up is
Place one?
place one. Mr. Contreras, front and center, please.
You raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Rachel Lee,
I, Eric Contreras,
solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office of Place 1 Council Member
the duties of the office of Place 1 council member
of the State of Texas
of the state of Texas
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States and of this state, so help me God.
of the United States and this state, so help me God.
No, it's just the generic one. Oh, okay. Raise your right hand. I, Andy Fennell, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of Place 2 council member of the state of Texas and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state, so help me God. I state your name.
I, Leah Young,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of Place 4 council member
of Place 4 council member
of the state of Texas
of the state of Texas
and will to the best of my ability preserve,
and will to the best of my ability preserve,
protect, and defend
protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States and of this state,
of the United States and of this state,
so help me God.
so help me God.
I'm going to ask Linda and Jeremy. Go slow.
Raise your right hand. I, Joel Moss. That's my mess up. I state your name.
I, Joel Moss,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of mayor
of mayor
of the state of Texas
of the state of Texas
and will to the best
and will to the best
of my ability preserve,
of my ability to preserve,
protect, and defend
protect, and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and laws of the United States
the laws of the Constitution of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state.
so help me God.
So help me God. Guess we're all legal now.
There you go.
Okay, at this time, we have public comments. Mr. James Seals, would you come up, state your name, please, address? And you have 3 minutes, please. If you'd go into that mic right over there, please.
James Sills, I live at 412 Big Creek Road, Willow Park. I come here tonight as a concerned citizen, not only for myself, but for everyone, but mostly the elderly people that live in Willow Park. A couple weeks ago, we had a pretty bad scare with the tornado. Thank God it did not touch down in Willow Park. But I came home from work, my power was out, and my car charger had broken on my phone, so I had 5% battery, and then my phone died. So I had no clue what was going on. I knew it got pretty bad. My wife came home, she says, get in the closet. So we ran in the closet. The alarms were going off on her phone. I did not even realize when I moved here, we did not have a tornado siren. A lot of the elderly folks that live in this town, they have flip phones. They don't know how to text and Blackboard and all this other stuff. We need tornado sirens. And I know the topographical map of Willow Park is hilly and stuff, but at least 3. I mean, we don't have to have the top of the line $10,000 whirling siren. We just need something that makes a lot of noise and lets people know what's going on. We don't need the one that, I mean, we don't need anything fancy. We just need tornado sirens. and especially one in the Wilkes development, that I think the Wilkes development should pay for, not the city. I mean, they've obviously got deep pockets. I think they can afford that, and the city can buy the other two, because there is a large population of people that live in Willow Park North. So, that's all I got.
All right, thank you very much. And Chief West has a public comment from a citizen, I think.
These are actually not my words. They are from Lynn Fuller. And this is addressed to Honorable Mayor Doyle Moss, City Administrator Brian Grimes, City of Willow Park Council members, and Chief West. This is very special to me because we have people that sacrifice a lot with us. And one of the people mentioned in this letter probably sacrifices the most. I don't usually do this. Wow. I warned you. My name is Lynn Fuller. My wife of 45 years and I have lived in Willow Park for the past 35 years. Unfortunately, several weeks ago, we were the victims of a terrifying home invasion at our residence. At approximately 2:30, two armed individuals with black hoods and black clothing with weapons kicked in our master bedroom door and jumped on top of my wife in bed. I was at our ranch in West Texas and not present. Active cases are pending, so I will not go into details. Willow Park Police, along with the Parker County Sheriff Department, responded to the incident. En route to the crime scene, Willow Park arrested an individual several blocks from our residence on what at the time were unrelated charges and placed him in the Parker County Jail. I immediately turned from West Texas to Willow Park and met with representatives of our police department to gain more information, resulting in the involvement of the Parker County Sheriff's Department, Texas Rangers, and the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force in the case. The purpose of this correspondence is to, in some small way, offer our personal thanks to all involved in this incident. Without the quick response and great police work of the Willow Park officers and the arrest of the individual in our neighborhood and other evidence collected at the residence, the arrest of the other suspects involved in this incident would not have been possible. I don't have all of the names, but I would like to thank all of the officers that responded to the scene and those that dealt with my wife for their professionalism and comfort to her for several hours while this was unfolding. Detective Jacqueline Ramirez was the lead investigator on the case, and her professionalism and work was exemplary. We are lucky to have her. Larry Fowler, Parker County Sheriff, the Texas Rangers, and the Marshal's Office, all of which I worked with over the past 40 years, worked round the clock with Willow Park to bring this to as quick and good conclusion as possible. I am retired from 40-year commissioned law enforcement officer in Texas. Over the years, I have been involved in many multi-agency investigations, and it was not always a pleasant experience. The cooperation and professionalism of these agencies was exemplary. Their combined efforts led to the quick arrest of all the suspects involved. In closing, I would like to report that my wife is doing fine and appreciates all of the thoughts and prayers. She remained calm and cool through the entire ordeal, which probably resulted in the outcome not being much worse. She has taught special ed and lived with me with a law enforcement career for 45 years, so she is pretty hard to rattle. Since I do not know the names of all of the officers involved in our incident, if appropriate, I request that Chief West please place a copy of this letter in each officer's personnel file and extend our appreciation. Signed.
Thank you, Carrie. This time we'll move on to the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve City Council minutes, April 9th, 2019?
I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Item number 2, consider and act on the appointment of a mayor pro tem. Nominations for mayor pro tem are now in order.
I make a motion to nominate Miss Leah Young for mayor pro tem.
Councilmember Leah is nominated. Are there any further nominations? Seeing as there are no further nominations, nominations are closed. Nomination is Leah Young to serve as Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor? Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Item number 3, to consider and act on final plat of reserves at Trinity Addition, a 140.302 acre tract A MacArthur Survey, abstract number 910, West Franklin Survey, abstract number 458, Henley Survey, abstract number 619, M. Edwards Survey, abstract number 1955, and J. Froman Survey, abstract number 471, City of Willow Park, County, Texas. Miss Betty.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. This is the final plat for this 140-acre subdivision, the reserves at Trinity. You have reviewed the preliminary plat at an earlier meeting, and this final plat comes forth with a favorable recommendation. There are 91 single-family residential lots that are being platted at this time. The maximum number of lots in this subdivision for single-family residents will be 97. There's also a 10.89 acre lot which will allow for 208 multifamily units within this PD. That is Lot 1, Block 10. And that is the maximum number of multifamily units for this subdivision as part of the PD. And then there is a 14.63 acre lot which is proposed for development with 110 townhomes. That's Lot 2, Block 8. Meadows Place Drive is being extended, which is a 60-foot collector street through the subdivision. It starts at Kingsgate. It terminates right now, and you can see on page 2 of the final plat where there is a temporary turnaround. As the second phase of the subdivision develops, Meadows Place Drive will be extended and will connect in the area of the Crown Point Boulevard, Crown Road area. You can see that up kind of on the north corner, and that will be with phase 2 of the development. So at this time, Bridge Street, which is located between the single-family and multifamily lots and is shown on page 3 of the plat. Bridge Street will be extended across to connect into the area of the shops, and then also Meadows Place Drive is being extended to the temporary cul-de-sac to facilitate flow within the subdivision. And then there are also the cul-de-sacs for the single-family residential development. Water and sewer and storm drainage have been reviewed by the city's engineer and meet the requirements of the city's subdivision ordinance. This final plat does come forth with a favorable recommendation from staff as well as a unanimous vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission. You have the final plat, you have the PD ordinance that was adopted in 16, as well as the PD zoning map within your packet. Jordan Bishop, the engineer for the developer, is here, and I would be happy to answer any questions of the staff report.
Do you have any questions for Betty?
Yeah, can we get a history on this PD, because it was approved in 2016, and it mentions multifamily and whatnot, and I'm familiar with it, but...
Okay. You do have the development standards within in your packet, and that is how the 140 acres will be developed in accordance with the zoning. If you remember, I guess it was 2 months ago, a month or two ago, that there was a rezoning within this that moved the event center zoning further to the north, and the area that was 11.79 acres, I believe, that was to have been the event center area, which was the old racetrack area where the grandstands were. That is now single family, and I believe we show 7 or 8 lots in that area. With the PD zoning, there was some higher density that was allowed within the PD development agreement. And so there were specific number of lots set aside in the PD, the 97 for the single family. So that's the maximum number of lots they can use within the area that's zoned for single family. There was almost 14 acres that was zoned for multifamily. 10 acres of that has been platted, but there was also a maximum number of multifamily units that could be developed within the subdivision, and that's 208. So they'll never exceed 208 units. And then there was the area that was set aside for townhomes and was zoned within the PD, and that's a maximum of 110 townhome units. So with those densities, they were higher than what is normally allowed with the zoning ordinance, but were approved by Commission and Council with the PD. So those are the parameters, I mean, those are the maximum number of units that will be allowed within the development. And then there's an area set aside for, obviously along the Clear Fork of the Trinity, there's a large area of green space that's to be improved. There's a parking area down to the south end.
I was just concerned mainly with the...
But yes,
But
as far as the
zoning-
residential.
The zoning for the multifamily was set in 2016.
With approval of the
With
PD
approval
development.
of the PD.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that's already locked in. We had nothing to do with that. That was in 2016.
Right, this is only the plat.
Yes.
This is
Yes, but I'm just-
the plat of the property, yes.
Sometimes people will get the wrong idea thinking that we're zoning multifamily, but this is something that was already done.
Yes, this was approved, I believe, by unanimous vote of the council, if I...
Yes, it
In
was.
16.
In 2016.
Any other questions for Betty? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the final plat of the reserves at Trinity Edition as read.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Okay, all opposed? Thank you. Item number 4, to consider and act on a request to change street name from Crown Lane to Mary Lou Drive. Miss Betty.
Thank you, Mayor. The Willow Park Baptist Church is requesting that the city consider renaming Crown Lane to Mary Lou Drive. This is a north-south street that runs from the I-20 service road to the north to Crown Road. All of the adjacent property owners concur with the name change, and at this time, there are actually no residents, no occupied residents, so you don't go through some of the problems you do with changing people's addresses. Actually, this will help us within the city with regard to responses and addressing, because we have several Crowns. Crown Lane, Crown Road, Crown Point. So this is the church's request. You have in your packet and also on the screen the area highlighted in red is Crown Lane that is proposed to be changed to Mary Lou Drive. And you also have an ordinance number 792-19, which would affect this change, if you concur.
Any other questions for Betty on the name change? Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve ordinance 792-19, an ordinance changing the name of Crown Lane to Mary Lou Drive, said street located in the city of Willow Park, Texas, providing a severability clause and providing for an effective date.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Thank you. We have a presentation by Municipal Court Judge. Carol Gaunt will present a PowerPoint presentation.
Mayor and council, thank you for allowing me to speak. I'd also like to, at this time, for those of you who've never met me, introduce myself. I am Carol Gant. I am the municipal court judge for your city, and I've been such for a year now. And I really appreciate you taking your faith in me and doing this. It's been my pleasure to serve the city and Parker County. The Texas Municipal Court Education Center has an initiative that they have started, and in that initiative, it is their effort and our effort to train the city management and council members on the municipal court and what it does and why we're here. And so this is our first effort at that. Tonight it's twofold. I want to speak to you a little bit about what we do, and then I'm also going to make a couple presentations at the end, which is why I'm not introducing my staff at this point. The goals of our municipal court are to provide efficient and timely processing of cases, while at the same time granting defendants the voice, respect, understanding, and neutrality. This is a balancing act for us because we don't see people who are really in a happy mood. So not everybody wants to come see the court. But so we have to try to make them happy and see that justice is served. So the staff does an excellent job of that. We're governed by Chapter 45 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedures. We have jurisdiction over fine-only offenses. We don't have any jurisdiction over any offenses that involve jail credit or jail time. However, if people don't take care of their business with us, they can go to warrant and they can be put in jail for not taking care of their business. It doesn't matter what size the court is, whether it's the city of Dallas, the city of Houston, the city of San Antonio, or the city of Willow Park. There are duties that have to be done. It just happens that all the duties of the municipal court operation are done by basically 2.5 people, because I'm only here for the court. Michelle and Jamie handle everything. I set the fines. We have a prosecutor who represents the state. And the reason our prosecutor represents the state is we're actually a state court. We're not the city court. Even though we're titled municipal court, we are a court of the state. That's why all citations are titled the state of Texas versus, they're not titled municipal city of Willow Park versus. So we are a court of the state. We're housed within the city. The city pays our salary, and the city gets to keep the revenue when we do find somebody owing us money. All of the items that you see up here, I won't go through the whole list, are done by Michelle and Jamie in the court. They handle people at the window, over the phone, email. They handle our dockets. They do all the records management, maintaining all the electronic and hard copies. They handle all open records and discovery requests, everything. These two ladies do it. What we handle traffic citations, penal code offenses, which includes simple assaults, thefts, and public intoxication, ordinance violations, parking citations, health and safety code violations, which are minor tobacco. And we probably will see an increase in those because the legislature is looking at raising the tobacco age from 18 to 21. Alcoholic beverage code violations for under 21. This is just a quick laundry list of what we've done in the year that I've been here. I chose this date range because this was when I began. I won't go through the whole list. You have actually the OCA report, I believe, in your materials that lists everything. What I do want to point out, we had 69 juveniles that we handled this year, and we have recently partnered with Parker County Teen Court, which gives those juveniles a third option other than mom and dad fork over the money, or they do community service within the city. Now they have the opportunity to take their case to Parker County Teen Court, and a jury of teens determine how much community service they need to do for their violation. I also would like to point out that right now we're showing that we've issued 2 warrants this year. The reason we have such a low number of warrants issued is and that's Michelle with her frog in her pocket, because Michelle is doing the work. We're auditing all the records before we issue warrants so that we don't falsely warrant somebody. And we want to make sure all our records are correct. I also perform, we brought in this year $340,436. Of that, roughly $194,000 the city has kept. The rest goes to the state in state taxes and court costs. And those are getting ready to go up too if the legislature has their way. As the judge for the city, I also perform magistrate duty for Parker County. Every 5 to 6 weeks I get to spend the weekend at jail. In that time this year, I magistrated 44 Class C misdemeanors, 81 A and B misdemeanors, 92 felonies, which tells you that we don't live in Mayberry. We do have some issues coming through the area. 5 emergency protective orders, 5 interlocks, which are breath machines, so that somebody who has had multiple DWIs has to have a machine to start their vehicle. And then other bond conditions that have been. The last legislative session, they looked very hard at indigence. Indigence is an issue that we deal with in the municipal court. They took the pressure off of the defendant. Instead of the defendant having to ask to be considered indigent, it is now on me to ask the defendant if they can take care of their case. Anybody whose income is less than 125% of the federal poverty guidelines, or they're enrolled in any one of several federal things such as food stamps or free school lunches. There's several things that qualifies them. This year we've had 12 individuals come forward who were found to be indigent, and it was found to be a hardship for them to have to do community service. Therefore, we had $3,243 in fines and costs waived this year. The Texas Municipal Court Education Center, like I said, has an initiative going to educate city councils and government, city management. And on their website, they have put a menu line item. It's called C3. And if you will go to that tomorrow, there's a video that I've saved you from having to watch tonight. It's a 15-minute video that they've just built, they've just put it out, that talks about the role of municipal court and the role of city government with municipal court. Also on that site, they have all the briefs that they have developed that affect municipal government and municipal court. And you can go out to that site, go to the C3 menu item, and you can open and read all of these briefs. Tomorrow morning, Alicia is going to send each of you an email, and in that email it's going to have a link that you can go to, and you'll be able to go send an email to TMCC asking them to put you on the C3, and then you'll start getting, going forward, they'll come to your email box. You won't have to go to the website to find them, but for all the past ones, you do need to go to the website. The last legislative session also enacted Senate Bill 42, which is the Judge Julie Kuchurik Act. Judge Kuchurik is a judge down in the Austin area who was shot in her driveway by somebody who wasn't happy with something she had done in court. So in the Senate bill, there is a line item requiring, and you have the entire bill in your materials, there's a requirement for me to start a court security committee. So we met for the first time in February, and the committee has to be made up of the judge, court staff, somebody from the police department, somebody from the city, and then anybody else that we deem that we think we need. So we are all three on it. Chief West is part of it. Alicia is representing the city, and City Councilwoman Amy Fennell has been meeting with us as well. We have been looking at court security issues, and once we finally come to a conclusion and we have recommendations to give to the mayor and the council, we'll ask to be visited during executive session on what we have discovered and what our recommendations are for our court security. And this brings me to the part that I take great pride in. Just a little background. In 1997, I was on the education committee for the Texas Municipal Court, Texas Court Clerk Association, and we were in the beginning stages and developed a certification program for municipal court clerks. It's a 3-level certification program. The first 2 levels require, outside of their normal day-to-day work, 40 hours of approved education, successful completion of a 3-part test that they have to pass all 3 parts at the same time. And that test covers, it's a book about this thick, of all aspect of court operation. Level 1 is more, more basic, and level 2 then is a little more in-depth. And then the third level, which is your certified municipal court clerk, you can see that it requires a lot more out of the clerks. It requires the 40 hours of approved education, a 36-hour assessment clinic, 40 hours observing courts of various sizes, doing a journal on those observations and submitting it. And then the three-part test that level 3 has to take is over material out of 16 management books. When you get to the level of certified municipal court clerk, in the court world, it's pretty much the equivalent of an associate's degree. This program is sponsored by the Texas Municipal Court Education Center, the Texas Court Clerk Association, the Texas Municipal Court Association, and Texas State University in San Marcos. So, with that, I would like to recognize our clerks, because not by any foresight on part of the city management, but because these two young ladies prefer to stay under the radar, they did this and then didn't say anything to anybody. And since I take great pride in this program, I would like to recognize them. So Jamie, if you'll please come forward. Jamie has been your deputy court clerk since January 1st of 2017. And last fall, November 14th to be exact, just a second, let me get my glasses on because it's not quite big enough for me. The Municipal Court Clerk Certification Program, be it known that Jamie Wehunt satisfactorily completed the prescribed course of study as required by the Municipal Court Clerk Certification, Certified Court Clerk Level 1. This certificate, duly signed, has been issued by the Boards of Directors of Texas Court Clerks Association, Texas Municipal Courts Association, and Texas Municipal Courts Education Center in cooperation with Texas State University San Marcos, and this was issued on the 14th day of November 2018 and signed by the Texas Court Clerk Association President Lisa Howard. Jamie is one. There are 3,065 court clerks in the state of Texas. Out of that, there are 656 who are now holding level 1 certification. That's 22% of the court clerks in the state of Texas. You have one of them. Michelle. Michelle's been the court administrator since January of 2017. She's been in the court since 2013. Michelle completed her level 1 in 2015, and in 2017, Michelle completed her level 2. So I'm going to read this one as well. The Municipal Court Clerk Certification Program, be it known that Victoria Lowe, I'm sorry, Veronica. Veronica satisfactorily completed the prescribed course of study as required by the Municipal Court Clerk Certification, Certified Court Clerk Level 2. This certificate, duly signed, has been issued by the Boards of Directors of Texas Court Clerks Association, Texas Municipal Courts Association, and Texas Municipal Courts Education Center in cooperation with Texas State University San Marcos. This was issued on the 14th day of July 2017, and again signed by Lisa Howard, Texas Court Clerks Association President. Michelle is one of only 560 court clerks out of the 3,065 court clerks in the state of Texas that have their level 2. 36-hour assessment clinic, and she's working towards her level 3. There are currently 83 certified municipal court clerks in the state of Texas. There have been 102 that have become certified municipal court clerks, but some of them, we have to continue our education to keep it, and those that retired have let it go. So I think the city needs to be really proud of the fact that you have 2 clerks and both of them are actively pursuing this certification, when we have larger cities work with clerks obviously not doing it. So with that, we won't take any more of your time. If you have any questions, please contact Michelle.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
Let me have that. There.
Oh, get the other one too.
I'd also like to really quick invite you to come watch our court in operation. Our next docket is next Thursday, the 24th, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We go all afternoon. Starting in June, it'll be the fourth Wednesday of the month at 1 o'clock. So thank you very much for your
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 6, quarterly financial report by Mr. Jake Weber.
Good evening. So this is going to show you financials through the end of March. So it's going to be 6 months worth of data for the most recent fiscal year. And just kind of, as usual, I'm going to highlight some things. There's a few things I want to point out as we kind of go through this that you'll see, just to kind of make you aware of. And so if you look again, that front page of that financial summary, you see our general fund obviously is operating at a large surplus right now. Again, that's because of the timing of a lot of our property taxes that have come in, and we'll look at that line item. And again, just from a high level, water is at a little bit of a deficit, but again, that's a planned item because of some of the water improvements that have been done. So we've addressed those in the past. Just wanted to highlight that, and that's kind of why you're seeing that. You also can see where the projects are at. As you're aware, that the building and the road, there's been significant work on those, so that's why the remaining amount to be spent there is significantly less than what it's been in the past, and we'll see the cash there as well, but that's just because of the progress made on those. Just a few things to point out. So if I'm looking at page number 2, it's going to be the general fund showing the revenue. Your two big line items on there, your M&O tax and your sales tax. So you can see M&O, we're at 99% of budget right now, so we're basically almost dead on what our budget is going to be for the year, because we've essentially collected almost everything to this point. There'll be a little bit that will come in, so we'll probably end up right at about 100% on that. So that's good for planning purposes, obviously seeing that we came right in what we anticipated. And then on the sales tax, we're trending a little bit ahead of even what we had budgeted. And I know we maybe had budgeted a little lower amount, but just to show that we are still strong on sales tax. And if you look year over year, we're up $111,000 at this point this year versus last year. So obviously it's continuing the strong growth. And I know even the year before, it was up significantly from the prior year. Any other questions, any other revenue items on the general fund on that first page? If not, go to the next page. The other thing I want to point out is going to be on that bond proceed. You see $1,872,000. That obviously was not within the budget, so when you're looking at those percentages, that's why that looks a little bit skewed on there. That is going to be $372,000. That is the police radios that we had gotten in the first quarter, and then about $1.5 million is that ladder truck. We have gotten the money in for that, and that has been dispersed to purchase the truck, but then the actual debt payments won't be until, I believe, 2020. Those won't start being made, so there's some timing on that. But that's what you're seeing there, that money coming in on that. Any questions on the revenue on the general fund?
And that 1.8 covers both those issuances, correct?
Correct, that's right. Yeah, that's a combined figure on those. Yep. Just on some of your expenses that you kind of see on your personnel, you're 47%, you're anticipating 50%, so we're right on par on that. There wasn't any other major items until we get to basically your last page of the general fund, which is going to be page 5 on the packet. Just a couple things to point out. The vehicles on that, $1,499,000, that's the ladder truck showing that going out. The radios, I believe the actual purchase of those was done in April, so that's why you don't see that going out yet, but that will show up on the next report. And then that predetermined project expenditure, $148,663, that is the church parking lot. So that's the cost for that. I know that had been discussed in prior years. The work was done this year, so that's that cost going out the door on that. If you look at your next page, just on your water fund, just a couple things I'll point out. You see on our user charges, we're a little below on budget, and that's really a seasonal thing. You'd expect that to catch up, 42% right now. We're a little behind last year, but again, that's probably just because of some of the weather and that type of thing. And then the other thing I pointed out last time, just on your budget, we had budgeted that $1.5 million to be spent for the water improvements. It doesn't show up as the money coming in the fund because we already had it. We got it several years ago, so that's why you don't see it as a budget to actual. It kind of skews those numbers, just so you're aware of that. The other thing I was going to point out on that page, just if you look at the Building, facility, and repairs were at 308% of budget. The reason on that, they had new HVAC they had to put in is about $6,400. So just if you're looking at the percentages there and that seems high, that's why on that. At the bottom of page 7 on your capital outlay on the water fund, you can see what we've been spending on the water. I will say one change from the first quarter's report is, as you're aware, the auditors came in last month and discussed the audit report. There was a few invoices that they invoiced us in October in the current fiscal year. However, the work was done in the prior year, so they adjusted and pushed those costs back in the prior fiscal year. So that's why if you're doing like a quarter-over-quarter look, the number is, if you do the math, it's not going to add up because we did an adjustment, and that adjustment is pushed through in these financials based on what they had recommended. Looking at the wastewater fund, nothing really major there. I mean, we're right on budget in terms of our revenue. Personnel's a little low, I think, because there was an employee that left earlier in the year, but otherwise everything there is going to be right where you'd expect it on that. Any questions on any of the budget to actual on some of the P&L line items there? Just looking at the bank account balances, just to give you a high level on those, you can see within our general fund, we went from 1.2 million at September 30th. We're at 2.5 million now, just because again the property tax revenue that's come in, and you've seen this in the past. Then we'll run at a deficit probably for the remainder of the year. You see the water fund, some of that money that's been spent out, some of the cash that we had, starting to spend some of that out of that Techstar account on those water improvements, and then also on the other funds you see on the construction funds. The money remaining on those to be spent for the roads and the buildings. You kind of be aware of that. And then the last thing I was going to point out is that the graphs on this page. And so I know the big thing on just the revenue, you see the sales tax, the trend there as it continues to go up, and that's something we talked about. And then I believe it was, I think actually Gary may have asked for it on when the auditors were here, but just kind of looking at the debt by fund. And so that's that graph that you see in the top right, debt balance by fund. So that basically just shows at the end of March, with our 3 major funds, what's the principal amount owed in total on all of those. So you kind of get a feel just for where you're at. And I know that's been a discussion point as to how much do we owe and who owes it and that type of thing. Any questions, anything?
General fund debt's primarily of that 12.6. About half that's probably public safety building and the original ranch house issuance.
Yes, I want to say those are. I can't remember the exact figure, but it's probably in the $9 million between both those. I want to say somewhere in that range. So yeah, the vast majority is going to be those 2 main projects.
And most of this debt was issued prior to 2017.
Yeah, because all of that, exactly. I think the only ones that would have been recent is the additions, the little bit of additions to the road, and then the fire truck, and a couple other maybe finance agreements. But yeah, the majority of that's been older debt.
And the biggest part of that debt was that bond that was voted on and approved by the voters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Eric?
Do you have any?
Jake, sorry.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. You look at your cash reserves, your cash balances. So we got about an even split between operating cash and what I would call cash reserves. I've been in investments. The blue, the yellow, and the gray are pretty much your reserve fund. You just call them different things. We got a pretty even split on operational cash versus cash reserve. Operational cash, operating cash, think of that as your checkbook. Candy, our monthly burn's about $500,000, probably.
Probably around there.
So you've got probably 4 to 5 months of just operating cash in your checking account right now, and then you have another 4 to 5 in your reserve fund as well.
Gives you some financial flexibility if you want to go out and either whether it be pay down some debt or if you have some capital projects you want to look at to pay cash for some of those if you need to.
Thanks, Jake.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hold on, there's 2 more. Rose, okay. I was asked by some council members to present our debt by funds, and we're going to have a more robust discussion on debt and long-term debt issuances in June. Eric Maha with Hilltop Securities. Depending on when we schedule it, he will be here. If not, I think George, I'm trying to remember his last name. Thank you. Will be here as well. But as you can see, we've got about 1.5 and change in debt coming up in 2022? I'm trying to see that chart. I don't have that on my spreadsheet. Is it 2? Thank you. I need Bernie Parker glasses. 2022, 23, and 24 are going to be some big, that's when your debt kind of crests, and then you'll start seeing the fall after 20, I think it's between 24 and 25 or 23 and 24. Your tax rate's going to go from roughly 22 cents to about 17 cents. And then it'll plateau around 17, and then that next drop in the bar graph will go down to about, I want to say, 11 or 12 cents. So your interest and sinking rate is going to take a fall here in the future. Not necessarily bad, not necessarily good, but that's where you are. Your capacity, which is I've been asked about by a number of folks, and we'll explain this in greater detail. Your capacity is based on what your total valuation is versus what your needs are. It's unlike M&O. If you have to raise $1.2 million and your value is this, your rate's set at that. It's real simple math. The problem with getting into, and Gary had emailed me, and I'll bring this back. The problem with trying to forecast long-term debt is the X factor, especially in Willow Park, is your total valuation. I'm going to ask a question and you can't answer. Anybody want to guess what Willow Park's total valuation was in 2007? Yeah, it was roughly $252 million in 2007. Anybody want to guess what the tax office sent me last week as the estimated number? $595 million. Now, that's before protest, and we are assuming that we will probably lose about 5% of that number. So that gets you to $565 million in total valuation. That's a 225% growth in value over the last 12 years in Willow Park. So when we talk about capacity, you will have capacity. When we talk about you're starting your growth curve, you're starting your growth curve. You're going to have the ability to issue debt should you choose to. I'm not going to sit there and argue should you or should you not. That's why you guys got elected. That's why y'all make the big bucks.
That was a joke.
But your ability to issue debt and the capacity to issue debt will be there. I've never seen numbers like this, and I sent that out to some colleagues of mine, and they thought I had a typo in there, and they said some other foreign words to me. You guys are in a great spot financially. You've got a bright future in front of you, and I know that's been a tagline around here, but it's actually true. You're about to see. Did Jess leave? You got 91 houses coming on the market, and even though it's in the TERS and we only get 25% of it, guess what? If it's a $300,000 house, you're still going to be getting roughly $100,000 of value off of that, just a little less. You're still going to be getting value out of that. And there was no value there before. Of the $595 million that the appraisal district sent over, $23 million is new value. That's phenomenal. That doesn't include some of the developments we have going on south of Fuzzies, or Holt, or even up on Crown Point. And so we have a bright future in front of us. You are starting your growth curve, and you're going to be coming into your own over the next 3 to 4 years. And so I invited Eric to come out and visit with us next month. He's got a bigger discussion on debt. We've got a lot of spreadsheets that are going to bore you to tears. But I can tell you, probably in the next 60 days, I want to come to you guys and say we can retire 3 issuances and not hurt us at all. In fact, it's going to be strongly recommended by staff that we retire at least 3 notes. Probably going to do it after the August. We have principal and interest payments in February and interest payments in August, and after we're done with the interest payments in August, you will probably see a recommendation from staff to pay off 3 additional debts. And I just want you guys to rest assured you're in good shape long term.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jake. Item number 7, consider and act on purchase of tornado warning sirens and update the radar tire. Chief Lenore.
Yes, sir. Okay, I gotta get a little update I gotta get to y'all. And get everything submitted like I was supposed to do.
No sausage links for you.
All right. Thanks for having us up here. I'm Mike Lenore. This is Engineer Jared Junker. Engineer Junker's been working diligently on the storm sirens and our hazard mitigation plan, which we'll be presenting next month. He and I really like weather, so we've really kind of teamed up on this. So that's why I get to torture him with standing up here. He's going to fill in spots that I forget. So the severe weather alert, we had a kind of a near scare last week, so I thought it was a good time to kind of introduce this idea again. So what does this system do that we're looking at? It's a storm siren system. Provides early detection and lead times for notifications of severe weather, tornadoes, flash floods, hail threats, high winds, everything that we get. Parker County and Van Zandt County seem to be the 2 target spots. I don't know why. A lead time is early notification of incoming severe weather. The average lead time is 13 minutes for a tornado warning, which is vast improved from years and decades ago. The sirens are used for outdoor notifications of severe weather. You may hear it indoor if you're close to a siren, but these are primarily used for outdoor. It's just another tool in the toolbox, prevents the loss of life and to provide early warning. So why this system? Just recent events. Rotating funnel cloud, April 30th, 2019, just south of Willow Park. Hudson Oaks and Aledo sirens were activated. We were staged, Jared was working dispatch, and me and the assistant chief were sitting over by McCall. We had 150 people in McCall that we didn't know about until later. We were sitting watching it pass by. And so it went just east of us over 1187. So that was, I wanted to try to get the video of that, but it wasn't very clear, so I didn't want to bore you with that. So that one was kind of that was a near miss. August 5th, 2017, Willow Park received straight line winds in excess of 70 miles an hour, down trees throughout the city. If a lot of people remember, we had down trees, we had to haul them up to Public Works and do controlled burns and get rid of all the limbs. We worked late that night. Actually did call back. March 17, 2016 at 6:30 in the morning, East Lake Road of Weatherford and North Willow Park received damage from an EF0 tornado that came across the southern portion of the lake. Jared was on that call, and he can tell you how scary it was driving into it. As a matter of fact, it was in one of those pumpers that we got rid of. Didn't have any pictures with those. Apparently I had lost those when I did a phone change and didn't send them to a cloud. But we had significant damage on the east side of the lake. So it was quite a bit. This was that morning's tornado warning for that.
In 2016?
That was the 2016, the 6:30 in the morning. So everybody's just getting up. Matter of fact, March, everybody's getting ready for school. School buses are rolling. And it cut across, and we were kind of lucky it was EF0, but it was still enough that it did damage. So these sirens, we've got them strategically placed within the city, on city property. We've got some overlap in the central, what we call the central area of Willow Park. So we've got, they're all located on city-owned well sites that already provide power and everything to it. As you can see, this coverage covers the schools, covers the senior home, the senior housings, assisted livings, the residents, the green, and is kind of the last of the extremely loud. The red is the coverage of the city. So, and it even covers some on East Lake up north. This is just another example of the coverage area and the locations of where the sirens would be located. They're loud, they're going to be loud, and so there's going to be testing that will have to be done on a prescribed date and everything in accordance with COG, and so it's going to be a nuisance on some days, just doing the testing to make sure that they're up and running. Major coverage points, Willow Park North, the ball fields, outdoor venue areas. We've got a lot of stuff going on at Willow Park-a-Palooza. Jared had a lightning detector and was monitoring the weather. At that time, we had a little bit of weather come through. Our schools, the hospital, and our specialty care facilities. How does it work? Installed on city-owned property. Utility poles mounted with sirens on the top of them. They've got a battery backup should we lose power at these sites. The batteries are going to take over, and they're good for quite a few alarms before the batteries die out. Hopefully we've got power restored. Backup generator established at these sites. National Weather Service will do the notification automatically. When your cell phone goes off, hey, we've got a tornado warning, guess what? The sirens go off. We can also manually activate them at the public safety building should something happen.
Will they be on existing poles or new poles?
New poles.
Okay.
They'll come install them on new poles.
Okay.
The cost, this is the highest cost that we had. None of these were buy board. So the additional that you have are the other two quotes that we received. And so this is the cost for the Century Storm Siren. This one is the one that Aledo and Hudson Oaks has. So it would integrate with their system. Parker County Fire Alarm can hit a tone, and all three cities' systems will go off at the same time. That's got pros and cons. Pros, good thing it happened. We got notification. Con, could be a false alarm. So it's kind of everybody would have to monitor their weather app, notifications through Blackboard Connect, different avenues. The install is approximately 8 weeks to complete. Also on the cost, the second one came in was from Federal, and it was for $93 and change, if I'm correct. Pardon me, $93 and $4. So it's a very good system as well. I did not, after looking over the ASC quote, I wasn't very impressed with them. They were going to install the poles, but there was a rock clause, and we've got rocks in Willow Park. So they didn't give me a number, so I didn't really feel comfortable with going, yeah, absolutely, let's do ASC.
How did the rock clause read?
It's kind of a blank that's on there as to the cost, and it would be, we're going to stop work and come back and tell you, by the way, we need some additional equipment.
Yeah.
So.
C4 dynamite.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we have the quote from that one, that 131, is it in here?
Yes, sir. That's the storm siren that I sent in with the packet that you received Friday.
Which one do you want?
I like the storm siren because it integrates with the Aledo and Hudson Oaks, and so they drop a tone, all three cities get notified. There was only one that integrated with the Blackboard Connect right now that we could find out. I'm still waiting to hear back from Century to see if they will upload with Blackboard Connect. The storm siren and the federal seem to be both two really good quotes, and so I would be happy with either product.
I'm going to defer to the city manager. Is this something that you feel comfortable we could do?
We could pay for this out of reserve funds. Yes.
Here's some of the pros and the cons. I always like to give kind of the equal amount. I can make up all kinds and we'd be here all night, but here's kind of the six that I think are the best to look at. Pro will give the citizens notification of imminent weather quickly, rather than having to listen to, oh, well, I heard Aledo go off, I heard Hudson Oaks, hey Jill, hey John, they just said something's heading toward Willow Park, where y'all at? That way we now know. It has a battery backup system, which is great. We lose power at these sites that don't have generators. The battery backup will hold for a while. I believe it said 30 alarm initiations of 3 seconds. So that's a pretty good alert time. And we're still going to be notifying the citizens on the Blackboard by the phone calls. We've got that capability, so the sirens miss it, we can hit it on Blackboard also. And then especially if the system picks up on Blackboard Connect, then that's even better. Cons, we'll be testing on a regular basis. It's going to be loud, it's going to be obnoxious, there's going to be phone calls, this thing is making noise, I'm sorry. I'd rather have life safety over some noise.
So when you say tested on a regular basis, how often are we talking about?
I believe the COG has it. I've got you the COG siren notifications that's in there.
Once a week.
I believe it's once a week on a Wednesday at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, that's under the full board.
First week of each month.
First week of each month.
So usually the first Wednesday of each month instead of every week. So a monthly basis is when we would do a test, and that's per the COGS framework, which just is kind of a standardized guideline of how everyone amongst the region does their testing and activations.
Okay.
Con's going to be false notifications. It could go off. National Weather Service sent one off, and we've got a notification, tornadoes in Brock and not in Aledo, Hudson Oaks, or Willow Park, and it's not even coming anywhere close. There's a, Jared calls it a polygon that the system's set up on, and if we just happen to be in the polygon and we're just in the zone, then we get the notification. It might be a miss. Better safe than sorry is how I've got to chalk it up as.
Is there a contingency in place that if tornado spotted in Brock, we're inside the polygon, Willow Park's not a threat?
So if you normally watch the weather when they do their polygons, they usually do them in very small increments, just a few miles ahead of the storm as they're predicting. So how it would work for us, the system will pick up our city limits, and if that polygon that the National Weather Service issues falls within that parameter, then it'll activate the system. So usually if it hits our system, we're usually within a close enough range that we probably should go ahead and be warning our citizens anyway.
But if one goes off in one part of town, all of them are going off? Or are you going to?
Correct. They'll all go off because I'd rather have them all go off instead of trying to hit one area versus another.
Gotcha.
Last con, there's always cost involved. These things aren't cheap. They're hard to get with grants. When you have the hazard mitigation plan, everybody's applying for this particular grant. And so the odds and chances of getting it, it's 50-50. You either get it or you don't. And so then you got to reapply.
What kind of maintenance or legacy costs do you anticipate with this?
We're going to have to do maintenance on them. We're getting further detail on it. Some of them offered a 3-year preventative maintenance plan, and then after that we pick it up on an annual basis per unit. I've got to get that cost. I plan on putting that into the emergency management budget, and so that's just an annual thing that here it is. I got to have it.
We're covered the first 3 years.
Yes. Well, with the ASC one, we are storm siren. I didn't see any kind of maintenance agreement. We're still calling to find out and verify that.
They usually say it's usually about $600 or $800 per siren a year, and that covers replacing all the batteries for the system, coming out, making sure all the radio frequencies are still pairing up and everything's working like it should be. Our computer system and all our polygon monitoring.
Can you repeat that price again?
6 to 8
$600 to $800 per siren.
per year.
Yeah. Sorry. You mentioned, and when we had discussions about this a couple weeks ago, does storm sirens require a generator, or can we use the ones at the wells?
If we have any at the wells, we can piggyback off them if they have the available power that I think Derek's working on for me. And,
I got one saying, I've got one saying yes and one saying no.
So
working on
we've got to figure that out. We've got to work on it and see, how much extra space we have between running the 3-phase pumps and then.
So if you assume worst case scenario, and we need generators, what size generator are you looking for? Bigger than a bread box?
Bigger than a bread box.
Okay.
Probably equivalent to what we've got at the new public safety building. It's a 60 kilowatt, so it's kind of a big boy, 3-phase, and it runs
For the whole system or for each?
For each.
for each.
For each?
The wells are 3-phase,
Yes.
and
Not all the
so
wells are, no.
Well, towers.
Yeah.
at the towers where we're going to put them at.
Okay.
So that's.
So the duration they have to operate, if they do go off, it's set by however long the storm's in the area, or is there a certain number of minutes?
It's based by what the National Weather Service will put off. As far as the Willow Park, you've got another tornado that's coming out of the Anettas after you just already had one roll through. So as soon as when National Weather Service pushes them out, every time those things will go off.
And then the backup batteries, how long will they carry the system? If they-
30 cycles, which they had said in some of the paperwork was quite extensive. So that it just depends on how many times that button gets hit.
Are those rechargeable batteries, that's it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, and they'll be replaced with the maintenance plan.
Any idea what a cost would be for the generators?
Ballpark. Ooh, ballpark. Yeah, because I've looked at quite a few from.
2 engineers in the room, no wait time.
I've seen some 3-phase as little as $6,000, and I've seen them all the way up to $30,000. So there's some avenues that we can obtain some used ones from a federal surplus in Fort Worth, and I've been eyeballing a few to take care of Station 2 with it. So we've got options. I think as far as generators, we've got time to work on that.
Okay, so that's not
an immediate.
So just to be clear for council, the price of 137 and change.
131.
Okay. Yes.
That's just for the system itself.
That's just for the system. So
That's
if we
not
needed
a
generators at a later date,
That'll be an extra.
we could kick that to the next fiscal year if we needed to.
Yes.
Okay.
If Raymond agrees.
Because we have the power to run to them and what have you already in place. Okay.
Chief, I had a question about the Blackboard Connect Now. So that's basically how we do our notifications now is through the Blackboard Connect.
Yes, ma'am.
Would this improve that, or is that just completely independent when you say that it's connected?
We've got to do some more research. I'd asked Jared about it today. I'm like, hey, does this one for sure cover? And he was checking on it to
Okay.
see. So
Because that's our indoor notification.
that's our indoor notification.
This is primarily outdoor.
Yes.
Um,
And so
If it-
now we've got multiple people with access, and we can actually set up a template for severe weather.
Okay.
And so I can push it out on my phone. We can get it taken care of.
Okay.
And I think it's going to run a little more smoother with
The system would improve our notification through that.
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
What does the council think about, Chief, getting the information on the generators more solid, and then the maintenance agreements, see where they are, and then let's revisit this in June? Is that good with everyone?
Well, one of the contracts already allows for 3 years of maintenance. I mean, I guess all we don't have
The
is
storm siren, he
That's
said,
the system that, you want storm sirens, correct?
He wants,
I
yeah,
want the sirens.
okay,
Okay.
but he didn't,
Okay.
he didn't know it did.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Which system integrates or is identical to Alito and Hudson Oaks?
That's the $131 or $131,000.
Is that your preference?
Sirens.
Okay, you said you liked it because it integrates very easily.
I think it would
but
be
you weren't
better
sure about
because if we're out on a call and
Yeah.
we're not able to activate the
That makes
sirens,
sense.
I can call dispatch, Jared can call dispatch, activate the sirens. We're busy. And so it can be done with the storm siren system.
So that's your preference?
That's my
Yes.
preference.
Okay.
So even if the generators don't have the capacity to run the sirens, the backup batteries.
The backup
will-
batteries are
will
going to
kick in.
run, yeah, if we don't have generators now, I don't foresee us having 25 tornadoes back to back.
Right. And even if we do, we get new batteries and we just bring them for
Sorry.
So the backup system will just automatically, the batteries will automatically kick in and
Batteries
operate,
automatically
even if
kick
the
in.
generators, and the generators can recharge the batteries afterwards. Okay,
Yes.
so no issue there, so.
Well, for the sake of just being thorough, what happens if one of the guys shaves his mustache off? I mean, have you looked into that? Because I don't want that to happen.
Oh.
I appreciate y'all being committed.
I'm trying to get everybody to keep growing there.
And if the generators are not a big ticket item now,
They're not a big ticket item now. no.
then we could do the system and move forward.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah, the generators are a wish list, not a needs.
Okay.
The sirens are the needs list.
Okay.
Chief, I have two questions.
Yes, sir.
Which system has the best coverage for the entire city for people that are living on the outskirts? Is there one that's better than another, or are all of them just about the same?
So if you look at the two maps that we had up there, so you're looking at ASC's map here, and the next one before that, you're looking at Federal's map. So pretty much based off of where we place the sirens now, it's already city-owned property, so we don't have to procure any land. With power already there, so we don't have to bring in any more extra costs there. So, and it just happened that it lined up well enough that we cover our entire city limits within those 4 sirens. So now we're gonna have, you said on the outside of our city, you're gonna have some bleed over. The red line up there now is 70 decibels. So you'll go from yellow to green to red, which is 90, 80, 70. So we're going to get some bleed over outside of our coverage area, and we anticipate that, but because it falls below the threshold of 70, that's just where we stop our map. So you'll get some out of there, but not much.
Now, but you get that, I think to clarify your question, you get that coverage with the system?
And that's with both.
Right.
If you look at the difference between the two maps, I mean, you're pretty well on about the same between the two as far as where you get your carryover to.
Sorry, Eric, you didn't.
No, I appreciate that. And, with technology improving all the time, is either one of these systems more compatible to accept technology upgrades in the future?
So they're both going to integrate in with newer technologies as they go, and that'll be things we look at down the road as they push out new products. in a few years, do we need to upgrade our computer software and just annual maintenance costs of that? Now, we are looking to make sure it can integrate into our Blackboard system and, future social media platforms so that those messages are getting out faster and more frequent to our citizens.
Thank you.
So you mentioned Hudson Oaks and Aledo both have this system. And do we match up to their area now? Or is there still a gap between us and Aledo? Do you know what their maps look like by any chance? Like whether,
I know,
because there's obviously unincorporated areas.
yeah.
We can hear Alido's on the south side of Willow Park.
Okay, because I was going to say, Station 34, there in Aledo, at the high school, they've got the Century storm siren there. And so I don't know the travel of it, but the mayor's saying it's down in his neck of the woods.
You can hear it.
So we're kind of
That'll
filling
be
in
an
a gap
overlap.
that exists. Yeah, okay.
So,
All right, what's the council's pleasure?
I'd make a motion to authorize city staff to procure the ASC system immediately.
Is that the system?
no, we would like to do the
The one we don't.
Excuse me, Century.
Yes, sir.
Wrong one. Excuse me.
Okay, we have the corrected system. Do we have a second?
Second.
Go ahead. No, so
Any other discussion or questions?
impressed.
All in favor? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Oh, we've got one more.
Oh, okay.
This is kind of
Oh, yeah.
So, Jared's been introducing some new cool toys, and this just happened to be one. I'm like, all right, cool. This is called the CASA radar, the Collaborative Adaptive Sensing Atmosphere. So, this is the radar that reads the lower level rather than the S-band. David Finfrock, he's up here, and we're kind of down, looking down underneath. So, this measures all levels of the storm approaching. So we're looking at it as it's coming in. We're looking at the low level, looking for downburst, heavy winds, rotation, and this system that we're able to, the software we've got budget for it currently right now. But there's a radar that you're going to see on here that enhances our notification, which helps the storm siren system better. So this is what we look like. This is the Midlothian CASA tower. It's a 45-foot tower with a radar on top of it. Runs off electricity and internet, which we would have to provide that. I'll have to get the actual consumption of the electricity. Internet, I'm not so worried about. What can I do? So, incorporates with the National Weather Service, provides a better early warning with the storm sirens. Can expand the radar and the approaching storms by being installed here in Willow Park. It can show you on the radar important features such as the tornado, the downburst, the wind speed, and all the citizens can access this, which is even more cooler. So if you take a look at the map that's on my phone, the blue dot's where we are. The dotted line is the extent of where the radar stops. So by putting this radar tower in Willow Park, we're going to get a little further access into Palo Pinto. So we're going to see basically Parker County coming in and some of Wise County.
Nice.
Should we get this system taken care of.
We're going to get you a green screen.
And over here we got the high pressure coming in.
Exactly.
Oh, I could keep going.
I know.
Okay, is there an app for that? Yes. This is my screen. Yes, I do like weather. So you'll see the CASA alert. So that's an app that our citizens can download. They'll have immediate access. It's going to tell you, hey, you've got weather coming in your area. Hey, you have a tornado warning. You've got rain that's coming. It's a really neat app. Like I said, I could be here till midnight with y'all on weather stuff. But I'm not going to do that. So you can download it on iOS and Android platforms. How much is it? The annual cost for us for the fire department access is $750 annually. That's website. That's getting to look into the storm and being able to talk with National Weather Service with it. Electric and internet. This will be from the Fox Hunt Water Tower site. So that's where CASA's deemed that's the best place for it. It's up high. We can see far out. Let's do it. The radar is purchased and installed from grant money or private funds being collected by CASA. We're not having to worry about it. So we're just providing city property to put the tower on, and then a $750 cost annually from our emergency management budget. And the citizens have full access to this. It's a win-win. Any questions on that?
$750.
Yes, sir.
And you're saying that that gets mounted on the water tower, not a
No,
separate
it'll
tower?
be a
So there'll be a separate-
45-foot independent tower that
Okay.
they'll install. They do all the legwork. They provide the
Okay.
tower, the radar. We just give them here's your spot to put it in.
Okay.
And here's some
And how big
power
of
and
a
here's some
spot do they
Wi-Fi.
need? How big of a spot do they need? Yeah. About the size in that area?
It wasn't a very big pad site for that.
They felt like that was easily workable.
Because we've
Yes.
also got we've also have the tower going up there now, for the siren.
Right, so that's gonna be on like a power pole style pole
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
storm sirens. But this, I think the footprint on it was maybe 8 foot by 8 foot
Okay.
as far as width and length.
We
So,
just drilled a new well over there, and we
right.
Yeah.
get pretty populated
Yeah.
over there at Foxhunt.
So our cost is $750.
Yeah.
$750 annually
I'm
out
good with
of
it.
our budget.
It's out of your budget.
Yes, sir. That's
What do you need from us?
This is just informational.
We-
Kind of the blessing to put it on the Fox Hunt Tower site.
You have our blessing.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're good.
Thank you.
All right. Thank y'all.
I expect you to be in a jacket, and I'm going to
Suit.
put a green screen behind you. Yes.
I can do that.
Item number 8, to consider an act on adopting ordinance 793-19, a draft contingency plan ordinance.
You're going to need to read the caption.
Anyone have the caption?
Yes, ma'am.
You read it.
Maybe.
Read it, Leah, please.
Ordinance 793-19, an ordinance amending Article 13.11 of the City of Willow Park's Code of Ordinances by deleting Section 13.11.035 in its entirety and repealing and replacing Division 3 Emergency Water Rationing Plan with revised Division 3 Drought Contingency and Emergency Water Plan, adopting a revised Drought Contingency Emergency Water Plan, attached hereto as Exhibit A, providing a penalty for violations of this ordinance in amount not to exceed $2,000, providing for variances, providing a cumulative repealer clause, providing for a severability clause, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the ordinance as read.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Item number 9, to consider an act on 2019 budget calendar. Mr. Grimes.
So it's that time of the year again that everybody around here likes. I've given you a preliminary dates, I should say, for what we plan to do prepare for the next fiscal year budget. If you only keep 2 dates in mind when you leave here, one is Tuesday, September the 3rd, which I believe is the day after Labor Day. We could probably plan that worse, but that'll be the first public hearing, first reading, and on budget and tax rate. And then Tuesday, September the 10th, will be the second reading, budget and tax rate. And then on September the 10th, we will also adopt the budget and tax rate. There's a number of dates in between now and September the 3rd. We're going to have a staff meeting probably at the end of this week or the beginning of next week, and we will start preparing and giving the department's heads their budget templates and getting their budget requests in. There will be some negotiations, some wrangling, and some interesting discussions with department heads as we process this budget. Another date that might be interesting to you guys is July the 24th. We should receive the certified tax roll from the tax office. That was the number I was giving out earlier. Again, the initial estimate was $595 million. We're going to anticipate a 5% loss off of that, so about $565 million is kind of the number that we're going to go off of, but we'll have a total certified budget, number on July 24th. That will impact your M&O rate as well as your interest and sinking rate.
I'm sorry.
No, there's really no action to take on this. This is just more
Okay.
informative. Any questions on the time frame? Council, you're welcome to participate. Citizens, you're welcome to participate when we have these discussions. I will tell you that we have some pretty big requests coming in from public safety. And we're going to, if the legislative session limits our ability to increase our revenue at 3.5%, we will have some very interesting discussions on how we're going to proceed moving forward. Without knowing those answers, I can't tell you anything on May 14th. But hopefully we can find some clarity in the next 2 weeks on how we're going to proceed.
Item number 10, to consider and act on off-site city council planning meeting and budget workshops.
So this was something that we've been discussing as a staff, and I visited with a couple of you throughout the spring. We would like to do a 2-day off-site workshop to discuss a number of issues. I've already talked to Pat Chester, and I want to clarify, Pat had a conflict this evening, and so he could not make it, and he sends his apologies. Pat's agreed to essentially MC or guide these budget discussions. It's budget. It's a little bit more than that, too. Some of it's vision, some of it's overall policy, some of it's operational policy. We've never had a sit down of how do you want to run this city? What's your vision of the city? What do you want to do in the next 10 years? We talk as a staff all the time. I've made exactly 0 votes in the near 18 months I've been up here. And so we execute the play that you call, and sometimes we need a little bit of clarity on how you want to do these things. And if if we have a vision, we can get you to where you need to go. But we need to know what that vision looks like. One of the reasons that you do this off-site is there's some camaraderie and bonding, just natural bonding of sitting down and having a cup of coffee with a guy and having some discussions. There's some fellowship time as well to get to know the people that are up here on the council, and also to get those staff. This is a fairly common practice. It's done a lot in the Metroplex. And so one of the things is we want to talk, and we put this in the budget. We put $10,000 in the budget for this last year. We don't have to spend all $10,000, but we didn't know what you wanted to do, so that's what we did. But we've got a couple of suggestions. None of them are incredibly difficult to get to. We've discussed, maybe getting a meeting space in Fort Worth, maybe a meeting space in the Alliance, doing a 2-day Friday, Saturday concept. Although some of the discussions with council members, I think we could probably do 7 days and not hit everything that everybody wants to talk about. But it would be organized. We'll have an agenda. We have it posted as a meeting, and so that's not a decision we're going to make tonight. But I'd like to know y'all's thoughts on a retreat, vision planning, budget, preliminary budget workshop. The date, June is completely out. I think everybody's going on vacation. I've got a 3rd grader at home who's taking the STAR test, and if he doesn't go on vacation soon, his mother's going to kill me. So we're looking at a July time frame. I think July 19th is what Alicia put in there. Is it 19th and 20th?
Yes, sir.
As a Friday, Saturday. Does that date right now conflict with anybody?
I possibly have one conflict. I may be able to work around it, figure something out.
Would the following week work better?
Following week would work better for me, but
I think I'm good.
Would the 24th, 25th?
I have no conflicts with those. It's just the further we go, the closer we are to not getting direction
That's right.
before budgeting.
Yeah.
This is true.
As
Yeah.
we get past the.
Exactly.
And there wasn't anything before July 19th?
We've got the one, there's a July 4 was a weekend in there.
Yeah.
Brought the wrong screen.
The
You got,
Yeah, 5th and 6th, I would say, is out.
Yes.
After the holiday.
No, that ain't gonna work.
So the only one is the 12th and 13th. That's
12th?
prior to.
yeah, 12th, 13th, or the 19th and 20th.
13th are available or something?
I'm just saying that those are,
Yeah,
Are you?
I'd prefer, 12th and 13th would work better for me.
12th and 13th.
Is that,
Did we?
was there a conflict?
I'm trying to remember when we talked about this at staff.
why we bumped it back to the 19th.
Yeah. We'll either focus it on the 12th and 13th. If we have a conflict, we'll bump it to the 19th and 20th. Does that work?
That works.
Look at those three weekends in July.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing is that we're looking at pricing. We've got.
I'm sorry, Brian, so the 12th and 13th was the preferable?
If
Before
we
start?
can, but he couldn't remember if there was a,
If we've already eliminated it.
Whatever. Yeah, I will.
Pricing.
Pricing, thank you. We're probably looking at putting up, in a best case scenario, put some staff up and obviously council members up at a hotel or a resort, not resort. I'm thinking of a joke that was made earlier today. Putting you up at the hotel, having meeting space, having a small breakfast provided, sandwiches at lunch, type deal. Y'all have a preference for location?
Did we talk Possum Kingdom?
I'm free there.
That has been brought up.
her, she's got a good wine.
I mean,
I want to stay at her house.
as you peel back the onion of that, that's not entirely beyond the realm of possibility. It's about, what, an hour and a half drive?
It's far enough away, it's far enough away you can't get right back.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and you have to remember, when you block in 10 rooms for staff and council, you're not going to pay that rack rate, you're going to get a lower
Yes.
group rate.
Well, give us a couple of options in the next meeting or so.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay?
Does location make a difference?
Yes, that was.
And whether anybody's available? Is Fort Worth easier for people?
Well, you don't want to go to Weatherford. I love Weatherford.
You were
I
just there.
prefer to get a little further away, but.
We are. We'll look at a couple
And
of
just to
sites.
clarify, one of the reasons you want to kind of get out of this comfort zone is you want to be far enough away to where you're focused on it, but yet you want to be close enough to where everybody can get to. What I was envisioning is I don't want someone who, on the council, who may or may not love to play golf at a golf course that may or may not be located in Willow Park, and it's a beautiful Saturday afternoon.
Why are you looking at me?
I'm not
He's
looking-
not.
I'm looking at the mayor pro
He's
tem.
It's a beautiful afternoon, I'll be.
Yeah.
Okay, item number, are we done on that?
Yeah, I think we got some clarity on what we want to do.
Item number 11, to consider an act on Ranch House Road bid to reconstruct that portion of the road from Fox Hunt to Scenic Trail and financing options to pay for the work. Council may authorize staff to prepare funding options. Mr. Grimes.
I want to turn it over to Derek Turner for the moment. My packet just died on me. Thank you.
Let me stall for time.
No, Derek, you're on.
So this is these are the bids for redoing Ranch House Road with concrete pavement from the south end of what we just recently completed at Fox Hunt all the way down to Scenic Drive. It's 26-foot wide concrete pavement. The existing street it varies roughly 24 feet. And then all of the accessory work, the ditches, the driveways, and all that kind of thing like we saw before. We received 6 bids. The low bid was $1.15 million from Jackson Construction. Jackson they're the ones that are paving Crown Boulevard and Tolles Road, and did the original work on some of that as well, some of that's already there. The bids were, the high bid, the 6th bid was $1.6 million, and it varied in that range, which is really tight. We got really good, the fact that they're all so close is, once again, a good indication that we got really good bids on the project. The bottom 3 were We're within, I think, $30,000 of each other, a little less, actually $26,000. So really tight bids. We took 2 alternate bids. The first alternate bid was to cement stabilize the subgrade. We took cores of the street, and it's actually got really good base material under it for the cores we took, but I added that in case we run into areas where it's not good. So we'll have that option if we need it. I'm not recommending that we add that alternate in right now. As I said, the information we've got shows that we've got really good subgrade. And the other alternate bid was to reconstruct this curve that goes by City Hall is pretty tight. It actually does not meet. If it were a new road, it wouldn't meet minimum requirements for a horizontal curve in a street. The fact that it's a rehab or a reconstruction would not necessarily mean that you would have to redo that, but we were asked to take bids to see what it would take to do it, and we've got alternate bids for that. The low bid on that was $146,000. That's just roughly between the culvert in front of the current police station, just down the road, and just beyond the next residence past City Hall here. It would require a pretty significant reconstruction of the parking area as well. This is just street bids that we've got. It would also require some significant change to the park area, and it would require additional property from the neighbor to the south, which we don't currently have. So that's something for you guys to consider. I'm sure staff has some thoughts on that, but those are the things that would have to be thought out if that option was taken. The recommendation that I put together is to award to the low bidder for the base bid amount.
What was that, what company was that?
Jackson Construction.
Okay.
I haven't had personal interaction with them and the projects they're doing, but I've seen their work, and they had really good references, so we didn't have any reason to do it.
They did the driveway approach at Riddle 1.
They did all flat work, everything.
Yeah.
Drive approach and just
yes.
the whole, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have any questions for Derek? Do we have, I'm sorry?
It'd probably be further in the process. No, I don't have any questions right now.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the city staff to proceed with a contract for Ranch House Road reconstruction with the option for the concrete subbase or whatever you need.
Cement stabilization.
Cement stabilization.
Do we have a second?
The issue is, do you will pay for that with a tax note or a certificate of obligation? There's 4 funding mechanisms.
Right.
Yeah.
One is cash, which I don't recommend.
No.
2 is a general obligation bond, which again I would not recommend. 3 is a certificate of obligation, which if you did that, you're looking at an August 13th issuance and a September sale. 4th is a tax note, which you could do in June, July, whenever.
Okay.
And so we're looking at essentially cash, GO, which would be, we'd have to put something on a ballot later. A CO would be a 10-year note.
Mm-hmm.
A tax note would be a 7-year.
7-year note, yes.
Or we could go with a 5-year note, but
I would
we'd be looking at 5 to 7.
I'd recommend, yes.
So
You can do a 7-year note with a callable any time, which means if we wanted to pay it off any time, you could without penalty.
okay. Well, I personally favor a tax note with a 7-year, with the idea that if we want to, simply because it's a relatively small amount for what we're doing, that we don't need to expand the debt a longer time, 10 years with a CO. It also allows us to act faster.
We have a motion. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So that would be, in looking at the funding options for this, I think it's a priority for the city, but I think a tax note is probably the best option for us to look at for funding it. So.
Do you want to amend your motion?
Sure.
So
To
what-
include.
We're considering funding, or are we pulling the trigger tonight?
We're considering funding.
Okay. That's
You're
just wanted to
not
make
pulling the
sure.
trigger.
Okay.
What you're doing is, and the reason why this is set up, this I want for everyone out there,
Yes.
is that the process that we have to do to issue a tax note versus a CO, from a staffing standpoint, is completely, there's two different paths, right? So a CO requires a lot more, there's a lot more work involved, and just you got Mike and his famous CASA app over there. A CO would require a different ordinance than it would be on a tax note. I will say this, I want to caution you guys. If we go down the tax note path and you decide to do a CO, banks do not like that. They will punish you.
If we change our mind.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to
So,
proceed looking at the tax note. 'cause
Go ahead.
we're-
Modify
We're
that.
motion.
Well, yeah,
Motion.
but I'm just clarifying.
Hold on a minute, okay.
So
Go ahead.
modify the motion to approve staff to authorize the staff to prepare the funding option of the 7-year tax note. Correct?
Yes, that's correct.
I second that motion.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor? Thank you. All right, KJ, we're on the downstretch.
He's got Law and Order on DVD.
Mayor and council member comments. We're entertaining a special meeting next Tuesday morning, May 21st. Betty, you want to give us a heads up on that just real quick? We're looking at a week from today, Tuesday, the 21st at 8 a.m., and this is why.
We are looking at a revised site plan for Marriott, and to keep them on track with construction, the Planning and Zoning Commission will meet Thursday evening. We would have a recommendation to y'all. I don't think it'll take but just a few minutes.
At 8 a.m.
8 a.m.?
Can everyone make Tuesday morning, 8 a.m., 21st? We need everyone here because Gary's gone, so we need to know that everyone can be here.
Yep.
Yes, I can be here.
I'll be here.
8 a.m. Tuesday morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
City manager's comments. You've got 60 seconds.
I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank the staff for staying late. I know that some of them have put in a 14-hour day, and so appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you guys on the 21st with or without makeup.
KJ, this meeting is adjourned.
I need a motion to adjourn. I need a motion. Hold on.
Motion to adjourn.
Wait, I hate to be the Gary here.
Wow.
The parks,
Yes.
are we still set for?
Yes,
parks?
thank you for that.
Yes.
I had 60 seconds. So we will have a Parks Board meeting on June the 4th, right here. It's open to citizens, everyone, stakeholders. You can provide comments to the surveys and the feedback. June the 4th at 6:30. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
No. Oh, yeah, I need a
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Hey.
Thank you.
Sorry.